Who is she, you might ask? Well, just me, who decided to get dressed up just for you for this video instead of wearing my traditional studio ragamuffin clothes. I'm excited about today's video. If you remember my video from October, I think it was, when I got all of these big frames to put my artwork in, and literally the month after that, I had surgery in both my hands. I have been recuperating, and I am working my way of getting back into my studio. We are going to be putting my artwork in my frames. I'm excited. I tend to be someone who takes a long time thinking about something before I do it, so I have spent meticulous time thinking about which artwork to put in my frames. Granted, in the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't matter too much because I can always change it back out. But I just wanted what I put in there initially to be some of my best, some of my favorite, because I would prefer to just put it in once and not have to change it out. And I also had to think about where I was putting the artwork, because it's going to be in my home. So in my dining room, it's more upbeat and happy blue colors and very pretty and dainty in there. In my living room, it feels a little bit more like a cave, so it could have a little bit more moodier artwork, which is kind of the artwork I lean towards. It's either like happy, upbeat, or moody. But enough of an intro. I am ready. I'm finally doing it today, folks. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's go do this. First things first, I've got to get this down because this is where the frames are going to be going. Oh. Ah! Oh, what a jump scare. Please enjoy this soundbite while I do stuff. First off, it's time to get my handy dandy little tiny pliers and start yanking these staples out that I put in. One down. 12 more to go. Now I'm severely speeding this process up for you because I just don't think it's very interesting. But if you're still here, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I would suggest continuing to stick around because at the end I end up going over my artwork and giving some critiques about my artwork and reviewing what I did, how I did it, and how I could improve in the future. Now here's hoping my personality and my edits are funny enough to keep people entertained. That being said, I thought it would be interesting for you to get to know me a little bit. But before I talk about myself, there's a little bit of an accident. Did you have a little fall there? I'm gonna help you out. There we go. I dropped a few doing that. I hope I don't find it with my toes later. Who can say? Where are you? Ah, there's one. Ah! Found the other one. Oh, owie. Have you gotten whiplash yet from all the times I've had to move you around? Has it happened yet? I hope not. I have genuinely enjoyed filming this video and certainly editing it. I have laughed so many times by the little things that I have added to this video, and when my husband is nearby and I happen to do something really funny or cute, I'll stop him and show him. I really shouldn't be surprised by how much I love making videos and editing the content, because there has been telltale signs that I do like this kind of thing. I saw this peeking at me while I was putting my pictures back, and I'm thinking, what did I make? What is that? What are you? I have to show you. Do you see it peeking? Do you see it? I have often thought about making videos and just random little movies, or I will come up with a movie in my head and watch it, and it's almost like I direct it in my mind. But then there has been plenty of times where I have watched a movie and I can't even get immersed in the movie because I'm so distracted thinking how they got the shots that they did and all the little edits that they must have done in post-production. And I can think of one movie in particular, The Parent Trap, where I knew it was only one actress playing both twins, and I cannot watch that movie without driving myself nuts about how they must have spliced things together to make it work the way that it did. Also, did you like that little faux magic trick bit that I just did? Anyway, I am just dusting off the frames here to get rid of all of the little particles or tiny bits of hair for obvious reasons, because nobody wants to be admiring some artwork and then happen to stumble across a little bit of lint or hair. Well, at this point, I really haven't told you a whole lot about myself, so why don't I go ahead and do that? I am from Southeast Kansas. I have been a wife for 9 years, and I am a mother to 3 wonderful, lovely, beautiful hobgoblins. I mean children. I have been doing artwork ever since I could hold a pencil or a crayon, and I have been telling stories and sharing them with people since I could talk. If this is your first introduction to me, then just know that I love art and I love writing, some of the biggest passions of my life. And I will say that although I am still in my explorative phase right now, seeing what type of edits I like putting in videos and what type of content I like to make, I do know that what content I make, I want it to be about writing and art. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I tend to think about things for a really long time, and I don't want to think myself into a corner where I make myself inactive. I want to be proactive in the passions that I have in my life. And although I have a lovely little family, I do know that I want to do more than just be a mom or a wife. Not that there's anything wrong with those roles. There's just a few more hats that I like to wear as well. And some of those hats include being a writer, a poet. I do sumi ink. I do acrylics. I dabble in watercolor, and it's been a hot minute since I've done oil. However, I do plan on transitioning to that medium sometime soon. Not exclusively, but I want to get back into it. I will say I started my YouTube channel because I wanted to share tips about writing and art, and although I have started to kind of phase away from that, and I'm not doing as many art tips or writing tips, I will still be making content about art and writing. As you can see here, this content is about me framing my artwork, which may not typically be such a fun thing to do, but I really thought that this would be a great opportunity for me to kind of have a chatty overview of my channel and what I want to do, and to give you an opportunity to get to know me a little bit. He is my beautiful boy.
He is the Sausage King. Why is he the Sausage King, you ask? I shall tell you. Look at him.
I think introspection is important and self-review is important as well. I think it helps keep us grounded and learn from our mistakes, and also praise what we're doing good so that we can feel positive about what we're working on. So I'm going to do a little bit of that for you today. I'm going to be reviewing my artwork that I'm going to be hanging up that you just watched me get prepared to hang up. Editing Tuesday here. The glare from the window onto the artwork is really bad. I apologize. So I'm going to fix that by putting an overlay of an image of my artwork up on where I have the artwork placed right now. Starting off with this one, I was working on another painting. I'll put it right here. While I was working on it, this image came to mind. And the painting that I was working on was very moody. I mean, you can tell by the image, like, there's a lot of swirling thoughts. It's supposed to convey a lot of feelings and emotions. In the middle of that painting, I thought of this image, and I decided that I wanted to do it with charcoal. And I have mixed feelings about how that turned out. I was happy that I went with charcoal because I think it was the best way to get the result that I was wanting, because I didn't think paint was going to quite do it, and I was correct. Because
the image that I saw was like this stream of light coming in from like a cracked open door and like smoky fog at the bottom of it. And there was a little bit of light streaming in. I had first used some tape to put right here to protect this part right here from getting charcoal on, because I really had to push the charcoal into the artwork. I first got my stick of charcoal and I'm just rubbing it on. I was rubbing it on really intensely. And then I also had to smudge it with my fingers so that it could get this really dark, pretty, satiny, opaque charcoal look, while also trying to keep this as clean as possible. I didn't do a great job. As you can tell, there's a little bit of smudging in it, but I think it kind of gives it a realistic feeling just a little bit by it not being a perfect straight line. So I am okay with how that turned out. But I did have to go in with an eraser to try to clean out where I wanted it to be white. And even though I used a corner of an eraser and I tried to be as really fine as possible, if I were to redo this or if I could go back, what I would choose to do differently is use an electric eraser. They make them like a little pin, and they're really, really tiny. And the eraser was just too clunky that I had. It was too big. Even when I tried to like make sure I got like a corner of it, it just wasn't doing it right. And I have several different eraser types, and I used a couple different trying to clean this up. And I think just a really fine pinpoint mechanical one would have actually done the job. I did use some of my erasers to kind of pull away from right here to give that illusion of light streaming in. I also smeared the eraser back and forth down here to give that smoky effect. Honestly, this turned out basically what was in my head. And I will say I had started to paint because I did want it like white. That's what I saw in my head. I wanted it to be white. And I started to get white paint, and I realized like the white of it wasn't quite what I wanted. And I actually liked the white of the paper versus the titanium white of paint. And granted, I could have added some gradient to that so it wasn't like a stark white. It could have been a more toned down white. But again, I just liked how the paper looked. So if you get really close, there's one teeny tiny part where I started to paint. And instead of trying to remove it, I just left it because I didn't want to tear the paper up by trying to remove it, and also wiping could have potentially have rent the whole thing. And I really didn't want to restart because something about the sound of the charcoal as I was rubbing it, it just like, it was like nails on a chalkboard for me. And I was cringing the entire time. I had goosebumps all over my body. It was just awful. I did not enjoy that. I enjoyed how this turned out. I'm proud of it. I like it a lot. I did not enjoy the process of rubbing the charcoal on. The sound of that was just terrible. Next, this guy. I am so proud of this artwork. It is one of my favorite pieces that I've ever done with graphite charcoal mixture drawing. This is my favorite drawing piece that I've done. And not because it's a skeleton, because I actually don't like skeletons. I don't like skeletal artwork. I like it because I proved to myself that I am capable of detail and I'm capable of spending a long time on artwork. I think sometimes I gravitate towards doing abstract is because my brain, if it takes too long to do something, I either quit it too soon before I finish it, or I get frustrated, or both. I pushed through it. I got this done, and it took over 50 hours to do, and I'm really, really proud of it. However, where I would change or do it differently if I had to go back is I don't think that my spots where the light is coming through the bones is completely matched up really well. I did this by hand. I didn't use any kind of tracing, but I did do this in art college. And so we had a stage where we set up our reference image, what we were going to draw. And so we found the skeleton in the prop closet, and it was missing its arm, but we found it, but it was disconnected. So I thought it would be funny to hang it on its ribs. It's funny to me. And we had a light up on like a tripod pointing down. And so it was really, really bright light. So it created this really harsh shadow here. So it was really helpful to be able to get the shadow, because if it was a soft shadow, it would have been a little bit more difficult to have determined the shadow specifically, because we were in a room that had a lot of nooks and crannies, and it wasn't like, here's a white box and here's your podium, this is what you have your stage set at, and that's your that's what you're going to be drawing. No, this was like in a room where there were like 3 or 4 other stages as well. And so this wasn't up against a white backdrop like you see how it's drawn here. There was a lot of other stuff going on. I was at least fortunate, like it was near a wall at least, so I could see the shadow, but there was still a lot going on around. And so because of the light being as bright as it was, I was able to see where the shadow was coming through, which was really helpful to make sure that I got the lines of the shadow right. And I think I did a really good job with the shadow. This is the first time that I have ever drawn something this detailed and in depth. And again, if I haven't already said, I'm so proud of it. I'm proud of myself for doing it. However, what else I would change is about right here starts to get a little bit fuzzy. And the shadow from the hip bone here, I think I could have made it look a little bit more 3-dimensional instead of so flat. There are places where I probably could have smudged and blended a little bit better, so it wasn't such like a rough sketch looking. At the same time, I do kind of like the rough sketch look of it with this specific drawing. With the other one, I'll show you how I had kind of the same complaint. I did really good with the vertebrae here and all of the different bone segments. And with the hand here, I did struggle because there were so many bones, and all those bones had lines. And so there were lines going this way and there's lines going this way. So the way that I was trained to draw is you look at your lines. And so each bone, so you look at your finger, there's a line here and there's a line here. And it's the same with the finger of the bone. So there's a line there and there's a line here. But because it was on the ribs, there's the rib bone line cutting between these lines. And so trying to make sure that whenever I made the line for the ribs, it was actually even and straight, and I didn't disconnect it and it be off. Next. My lady. I love this so much. I had someone who fell in love with this artwork. They wanted it so, so badly. And I didn't have the heart to give them the original, so I made a copy. But this was years ago, before I really knew what prints were and how to do that or how that would work. I literally just redid it. I did it in college as well, pretty soon around the time that I did the skeleton. I don't remember which one came first, but similarly to the skeleton drawing, I think I could have benefited from a little bit more. Oh, it's not smearing, blending. I think I could have benefited from blending. And with the skeleton one, I'm okay that it looks a little bit rough. I think it works for that piece. However, because this has fabric, I think instead of it looking so rough, I could have blended it a little bit more. What I tried to do, I tried to give the illusion of blending without actually blending. by adding shadow parts by just drawing more on those sections instead of drawing a little bit more on them and then blending so that it was like a gradual transition. And I think that for my first time drawing fabric, I did pretty good. I think I did really good on her hair. Her hair feels really realistic. Sorry, I was admiring and forgot what I was saying. This was really tricky right here to do this part. And actually, this was a mannequin that did not have any hair. And it was actually a very petite mannequin. And their face looked totally different. So as I was working on her, this just happened. I just started drawing a different face. And the face looked very Native American. And I'm Native American myself. I know you can't tell because I look like my thrice great grandparents who moved here from Ireland. Anyway, I'm really drawn to Native American artwork, and I think like the authentic Native American look of like the strong features and the long black hair is just very beautiful. So this just happened. I didn't plan this. This just came out, but I think it works really well. I really love how I did the part, and her hair, I think, looks really good. And she's got really long hair. Like, this isn't the tail of a bow here on the back. This is actually her hair extended all the way down. And the mannequin did not have arms, so I did not draw arms. But I think that the expression that I give her, along with missing arms and her mouth is closed, I've been told by other people who have viewed this artwork that she looks very proud and this silent, indignant. She is herself. She is not changing. She may be wearing colonial clothing, but at her core, she is who she is. I got sidetracked staring at her again. Sorry. It's going to be fun having her up on my wall. Just the expression that I've given her and this silent but proud pose that she's in, it almost feels like she's been cut off in a sense where she isn't communicating her thoughts, but you can tell that she has thoughts. And so I think what is conveyed in this artwork without meaning to is actually really intense and really strong, which I think is so interesting because I wasn't even trying to. It just happened, but I love how it turned out. My painting instructor, he is amazing. And there were times where he would come and like stand over me. And well, he did it to everybody. He'd come and stand and watch. And there was one drawing that I did in particular where he just kind of looked as I was working on it. He just watched and was like, huh. He was very intrigued, and I was very flattered because he's very stoic and he didn't really show a lot of expression. And he said something along the lines of, "This is my best work." And he really liked the technique that I was using. Granted, it wasn't this artwork, but I remember him being interested in how I took it because I really don't think he cared that I didn't draw it exactly like the mannequin. There were other things I drew. I remember one time we had to draw some buildings and we were just doing some rough sketches, and I ended up drawing like a dinosaur attacking dinosaur attacking the buildings and tearing them up. And he didn't mind. He wasn't like, "That's not what I told you to draw." I did my lines. I got my buildings. I just added a little bit of space. Anyway, what I would change if I was going to, or if I could go back in time and make a little adjustments, it would be with her face. I love her expression. I love like this look on her face, but I will say her eyes are definitely a place where I could do more work so that they looked a little bit more realistic. I have a lot more years under my belt now drawing, and so I've learned how to make eyes look a little bit more realistic, and I'm missing like water lines here, and also the natural shape of an eye doesn't go quite up like that, and the eyes actually like are partially covered by your lid and your lashes. It's not like you have the eyeball and then the lashes are up above it. So I also think that with her lips here, people have like a layer right here at the top of their lips. It's not just a straight, this is your lips and it's the outline. With her Filtrum, I just put lines instead of like trying to shadow it out and make it look a little bit. Again, I didn't know how to, and I was doing the best that I could. Regardless, I'm really proud of how this turned out. I'm really excited to get her up on the walls. My last critique with this piece and this guy is that I stored them in to the best of my knowledge at that time. But where I kept them, I accidentally had some water damage get to them. So there's water got in my big old bag that I keep my artwork in, and all of my works started to like smash together and they smeared on each other. And so that's what happened with both of these. So unfortunately, there's nothing I can do to change that. When I saw it, I was heartbroken. I thought, oh my gosh, it's ruined. But I cleaned it up as best that I could, like gently wiping things off, and I sanitized it because there was also mold. Oh, that broke my heart. So I cannot stress enough how important it is to store your artwork in a safe place, away from water, in a temperature controlled room, preferably up off the floor, if at all possible. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you liked this video, then please like the video below. It really helps out my channel. And if you have anything you'd like to say about my artwork, then comment below. And if you're an artist and you have any tips for me of something that you saw that I could improve in my artwork, let me know. I'd love to hear it. And if you're new here and you've not seen a video of mine before, my content is all about writing and art. Today was more about art, and we would love to have you if you'd consider subscribing so that you don't miss out on any future uploads or videos. Bye!